So welcome to chapter 1. In this chapter, we're going to talk about a number of things, and right now it's really basic. All we're going to do is be looking at numbers and do a few really simple formulas. We're going to learn how to open a notebook and close it to save it properly in Excel format, and maybe talk about some of the other Excel formats like backwards compatibility if you want to save to a computer using an older version of Excel. We're going to talk about cells and ranges, and we're going to talk about how to plan a workbook. Now, it's important to understand that in your workbook, just like in the game Battleship, you have rows that go from side to side and columns that go up and down. And each one has an address, right? So if our first column is A and our first row is 1, A1 is the name of that individual cell. We're also going to look at worksheets. So just like your notebook, which has many pages inside of it, your Excel workbook could have many worksheets inside of it. So this is often convenient. Like our example we just talked about before, instead of having everything on one sheet, you're able to have all of January on one sheet, or all of February on one sheet, or quarter 1 on one sheet and quarter 2 on one sheet, helping you organize your information, right? Often we have global variables that are copied over to multiple places, and that could really help us with that. We're going to learn how to put in text, dates, and numbers, as well as undoing things when you make a mistake. A good tip is that you can press Ctrl-Z to go back, as well as resizing columns and rows. So if they're too small and everything looks like hashtags, we're going to learn how to click and drag it over. We're also going to talk about our first formulas, which are sum and count. Sum adds cells together, numbers, and count will count cells with numbers in them. We're also going to talk about copying and pasting formulas, which gets a little tricky when we're moving them around. And we're going to talk about inserting and moving around ranges of cells. We're also going to talk about flash fill. So often we have a series of numbers and we want to continue that pattern, whether it's days of the week or months or numbers, and we're going to learn how to do that. And we're also going to talk about printing. Now, printing, you would think is a very simple thing, but it can get really tricky when our sheet is very wide or very long, or both, right? So what prints out when, especially when you're going to be sitting on the floor with your scissors and tape to stick it all together into a huge giant sheet, you really have to think about how's it going to look, how should we design it in order to make it look easy to print out, right? So we're going to talk about all these things and more in chapter 1.